Current scaling laws in artificial intelligence are hitting a ceiling. While foundation models possess massive knowledge bases, simply adding more data is yielding diminishing returns for deep, multi-step reasoning and precise value alignment. The limit exists because these systems rely almost exclusively on human-generated data, text, code, and spoken words. In the mathematical notation of cognition, we define these observable human actions over time as A of t. We can contrast this with B of t, which represents the total, high-dimensional neural complexity happening inside the biological brain. This Venn diagram illustrates the generative brain principle. Observable actions, A of t, make up only a fraction of total brain activity, B of t. Text-based training completely misses the cognitive latent space. It misses the hesitations, the unselected alternative rules, and the subconscious evaluations that precede a spoken word. We can access this hidden space through neuroimaging data, designated here as the approximation B star of t. By training models purely on text, we are optimizing them to mimic the filtered output of cognition, ignoring the biological engine that actually generates it. This chart maps the current artificial intelligence landscape, plotting the semantic gradient of data against levels of scientific organization. Specialized models sit on the far left. These systems, like those used to predict protein structures, rely entirely on device-generated data. Large language models sit on the far right, relying overwhelmingly on human-generated semantic text. The top left quadrant remains empty. We do not yet have an end-to-end foundation model of human cognition grounded in actual neural activity. LLMs simulate an idealized human intellect, yet their architectures treat the actual biological brain as a complete black box. To bridge this gap, researchers are proposing a new strategy: brain-trained foundation models. Scaling observable actions will never yield functional artificial general intelligence. Achieving that requires actively harvesting brain-generated data. This diagram classifies the limitations of current foundation models into 4 specific cognitive deficits, mapping each one directly to missing neural networks. First is the perception deficit. Models possess fragile perceptual representations because human-provided labels capture only surface-level regularities. They lack the deep sensory processing of the visual and auditory cortices. Second is the valuation deficit. Models struggle with value alignment because they lack the intrinsic reward architectures found in the ventral striatum and ventral medial prefrontal cortex. Third is the execution deficit. Models fail at complex, multi-step planning due to an absence of the robust cognitive control mechanisms housed in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Finally, the integration deficit. Models hallucinate because they operate without the sensory-motor grounding and conceptual integration provided by regions like the temporoparietal junction. The architectural failures of modern AI are direct consequences of biological omissions. They cannot be corrected by simply adding more text to a dataset. Pre-training a massive model purely on neuroimaging data is currently too expensive. Engineering interventions must happen at post-training bottlenecks, specifically during alignment. Standard reinforcement learning from human feedback relies on human annotators giving discrete ratings. These low-bandwidth scores fail to capture an evaluator's internal conflict or true valuation of an output. The left side of this schematic proposes a replacement pipeline, reinforcement learning from the human brain, or RLHB. By recording EEG or fMRI data while an annotator evaluates a model's output, researchers extract a continuous stream of subliminal valuation signals. Metrics measuring cognitive effort, intrinsic confidence, and novelty are pulled directly from the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and insula in real time. RLHB upgrades alignment from conscious, easily gamified preferences to undeniable, subconscious biological truths. This yields a multidimensional reward function that strictly resists reward hacking. The second major training bottleneck involves teaching AI to reason, typically executed through chain-of-thought prompting. Standard chain-of-thought relies entirely on static, text-based examples of human reasoning. The model sees the steps, but it misses the control mechanisms that decided why a specific reasoning path was chosen. The right side of the schematic outlines a solution: chain of thought from the human brain. Extracting signals from a human's execution network during a logic puzzle provides the algorithmic blueprint for decision branching. A spike in the anterior cingulate cortex indicates the value of exploratory behavior, instructing the AI to open a new reasoning branch. But this introduces a duration mismatch. Human reasoning takes days, while fMRI sessions last hours. Engineers can resolve this through cognitive compositionality, alternating between macro planning signals to break down the broader problem and micro execution signals to solve the individual steps. Chain of thought from the human brain transforms AI reasoning from a superficial text emulation trick into a structurally biomimetic control mechanism. Immediate technical hurdles exist. High-resolution fMRI data is scarce, expensive, and requires absolute immobility from the human subject. The logistical path forward relies on cross-modality translation. Researchers can use cheap, wearable EEG devices to record data and train models to predict the corresponding high-resolution fMRI signals. This establishes a clear training roadmap. Massive textual datasets will continue to provide base knowledge, but they will be refined by a concentrated stream of brain-generated data, acting as a final regulating filter at critical fine-tuning nodes. This strategy represents a realistic middle ground between endlessly scaling current language architectures and attempting to build entirely new neuromorphic hardware from scratch. Tapping into unfiltered neural metrics will require stringent ethical protocols to protect privacy and ensure absolute freedom of thought. To achieve true, functional artificial general intelligence, we must stop training models purely on the shadow of human history. We have to start training them on the biological engine that cast it.